My name is Gigi. Once and I have been married for 5 years with my husband. We have a 4-year-old son, and my husband and I got married right after high school. Our relationship started when we were in high school. He courted me and was very caring and attentive. We started dating too early and weren't ready for serious married life, but we had tried and took on that responsibility. The first year of family life was not easy, but we knew how to find a way out. We gave in to each other somewhere and turned a blind eye to something. But as the years went by, everything grew into something hard and unbearable. We began to drift apart. At times, we even avoided each other. But it all seemed right, as if things weren't always smooth and colorful in a relationship, so it had to be endured, waited out, and then things would get better. I woke up one morning and realized I wasn't happy with my life. Not at all. Our marriage had become dry and stale. They did not bring me satisfaction and joy at all. In general, I no longer felt happy, and I no longer felt happy, and I no longer had any feelings for my husband. First, from the fact that he did not understand me and could not protect me from his mother's attacks. I did not understand why my husband was not on my side, but on my mother-in-law's side. I didn't feel safe with him, and I didn't feel supported by him. Every time I heard him accuse me of being to blame for everything and that I should change. And my first reaction was hurt and resentment, that he did not understand me, did not try to hear me, to understand what I was feeling, what emotions I was experiencing, to see my rich and beautiful inner world, to appreciate it, to understand how ready I was to love and give that love to him. What I am inside, what I feel, what I strive for, what I want, what I dream about, that by rejecting all this, he rejects me. It hurt me terribly. It angered every cell of my body. It caused unbearable pain, a pain that was buried deeper and deeper in my subconscious. I couldn't bear it. I wanted to get rid of it at once, with a wave of a magic wand, to forget everything that was happening and start from scratch. And everything seemed to calm down, but each time not for long, because the situations would repeat again, and again my emotions would overwhelm me with new strength. I cried like a fool. I thought that when he saw my tears, he would at least try to understand me, but things only got worse. The next stage was anger. The pain was probably still there, but it was replaced by anger and the desire to hurt him more. Revenge, to hurt him more, to make him understand how I felt. No, I didn't think about cheating. I ignored him, tried to hurt him with words, showed my independence and autonomy in every way I could. I did everything in spite of him. You shouldn't have hurt me. I justified myself, but it did not bring special results. He did not engage in open conflict, preferred to keep silence and avoid the conversation. It should be noted that he was used to this method of solving problems. It was common in his family. His mother would not speak to him for a week if she was offended. She brought him up alone, succeeded in developing a sense of guilt in him, and very skillfully pulled those strings at the right time. And to me, it was wild. It was completely different in our family. We preferred to say everything at once, to clarify things, by making our points of view clear, and even if we talked at high tones and did not come to a consensus, no offense was out of the question. In 5 minutes, we were able to talk about other topics as if nothing had happened. The next stage was indifference. A man I know once told me that everything can be forgiven and tolerated except indifference. I guess, I don't know, I didn't have that. I no longer roared with resentment. I began to plan my life without considering his interests and decided that no matter what, I would move forward, develop, and learn. By this time, I'd become interested in psychology, in working with the subconscious, in the connection of problems, including health problems, with the presence of blocks and beliefs. Naturally, all my aspirations once again did not resonate in his heart, and he told me that I was doing complete nonsense. By that time, the intimacy between us had lost its former colors altogether. Everything had become a physiological need, nothing more. I became bored and uninterested with him. Next to him, I did not feel like a desirable woman. Sometimes I would have liked him to look at me with different eyes, full of love and admiration. But it was as if he did not see me or looked through me. Next to him, I had to prove my worth and importance, to try to do everything to make him notice me and look at me with different eyes. But he was indifferent and not punchy like a wall. At some point, I became jealous, and I suspected my husband of cheating. I did not understand why he did not notice me. Maybe he had someone else. I began to check his social networks, tried to spot any traces on his clothes, or looked for notes in his pockets, and so on. But I couldn't find anything, and that hurt me even more. If there was a reason for his behavior, it would be easier to assess his actions. But as it was, I was left to think that he just fell out of love with me, and that was no consolation at all. Then I started reading all kinds of women's tips on the type to cause her husband jealousy or change something in yourself. Start taking care of yourself. And what without everyone's favorite advice? To be the perfect hostess and please your husband. I tried everything. I cooked and cleaned, bought flowers, allegedly at work gave, changed my hair, went to various cosmetic procedures, all to no avail. His husband, as he lived his life, and lives it on, he'd just point blank, did not see me. At times, it seemed to me that if I cut my hair bald, he would not notice. I think many women can experience a similar thing, but not all can decide to break this vicious circle. I mean, it's scary. All the same, there is a man around, what any do not drink, do not beat, his daughter loves, earns, average, but enough to live. But I decided that something had to change. So far, I did not know how. I had no clear plan, especially since there is always the hope that over time, all by itself will pass, and everything will change. That is why I had to let the situation in the family go for a while, and it didn't take long for things to change. There he was. He was my colleague at work. Honestly, I have never before understood people who start relationships on the side at work. There will be gossip, and if it all becomes known, yes, and if the relationships suddenly come to a standstill or spoil, then what? We'll have to look for a new job. Stupid and too much trouble. That's definitely not me. But the principle of never say never worked for me here too. It so happened that one half of our team were young girls under 25, and the other half were aunties over 50, and all female. Timmy was 5 years older. He wasn't handsome, but he was insanely charming. Everyone respected him. His aunts treated him maternally, even protected him sometimes from his superiors. With us young girls, he behaved in a friendly, level-headed way. It was comfortable and easy to work in such a team. One felt solidarity, and I was always happy to run to work in the morning. I began to notice his glances. I was flattered by his attention. Personally, flirting turns me on, excites and intrigues me. This times increases self-esteem and helps to produce a hormone of joy. I always liked how men look at me with adoration, and I thought, look, but do not touch with your hands. It's like forbidden fruit. I think a lot of people use such maneuvers to boost their self-esteem. Once in a conversation, Timmy suggested, as if by chance, that we go to a club or a disco. I joked about it, imagining that I would be out of the house for the evening and that I would have to tell my husband. I'm married, and I certainly can't afford to go out like that, I said, laughing and forgetting about the conversation. It was a warm winter evening. Snow was falling in flakes, and the magical feeling was enhanced and transformed into magic by the fact that it was my birthday. I still love this holiday. It seems to me that anything is possible on this day. When the guests left, my mother-in-law took her daughter to her place, and we were left alone. Something did not work out from the beginning. One word at a time, complaints about each other began from the depths of my subconscious. With an unbelievable onslaught began to rise again all the negative feelings and emotions. Well, how come, at least tonight, you couldn't ruin the evening because we were alone and figuring things out was clearly not the ending I had hoped for. I couldn't hold back the tears anymore. The resentment hurt me again, and it was unbearable to breathe. I ran to the bathroom trying to hide. It seemed to me that now my heart would stop because I was no longer able to endure this pain. Once I had calmed down a bit, I decided that I would not allow myself to be treated that way again. I was a woman, and I needed to be loved. Love was the only thing I asked for. I went out, but there was no one at home. He left. He took the keys from the nightstand and left. I suddenly felt calm and at ease. I didn't know if he was coming back, but I didn't care. Remembering our conversation with Timmy, I texted him, "Is your offer still on the table?" A minute later, the reply came back, "Yes." Then that text was my salvation? I was sitting on the couch, and a sense of calm spilled over my body with a pleasant warmth. I was smiling, and I felt surprisingly at ease. Through my running thoughts, I could hear the sound of new texts coming in, unanswered. I slowly began to realize that this was the moment of my transformation and rebirth. There was no longer the old me, and now I would not let anyone trample on my feelings or hurt me. The point of no return to the old me was past, and the life I had always dreamed of was ahead of me, and everything else seemed small and unimportant. I knew that I had the strength to overcome everything and be happy. At that moment, the key in the keyhole clicked. It was my husband returning, and strangely enough, he started apologizing. He had never felt guilty, and here he was. It's a strange feeling when you've been waiting for something for so long and dreaming about it, and it happens, and suddenly you don't care. This was the first time it happened to me. I began to analyze why our relationship was no longer like before. After all, I loved him once. I wanted to be with him. It seems to me that such a relationship is inherently doomed. Love should be mutual. There is no need to forcefully draw the facts and rush things. Despite the fact that my husband sincerely apologized to me, we still began to figure things out again. After the apology, we began to figure out why things went downhill, why our relationship is strained, and why he does not understand me and does not support. But it was as if my husband didn't hear me and didn't see any of his mistakes or his guilt in general. He tried for a long time to defend himself and look for reasons in me. That I was exaggerating too much and thinking up problems on my own. I realized abruptly that our relationship had come to naught, that there was no point in talking to a man who didn't want to hear me, and I was hurt by the fact that my feelings were being devalued. I packed up, got my keys and money, and drove to Timmy's. I told my husband that I needed to be alone, and supposedly I was going to my mom's. When I met Timmy, I was shattered and disappointed, but I didn't show it. But I think he noticed my condition and tried to cheer me up with his silly jokes, which really helped. I decided that tonight I was going to forget everything that was going on in my life and have a blast. We went to a local club, which was up until morning. I don't remember how many cocktails were drunk, but I'm guessing quite a few. I danced like I was 16 and was allowed an hour more to go out with friends late at night. Timmy was surprised to see his humble married colleague act like she goes clubbing every weekend and feels like she's her own person here. My resentments seem to explode and spill out in that club. I felt like a free and young girl who still had everything ahead of her and was ready to tear up the world. Timmy looked at me with entirely different eyes. He saw me as the woman he wanted to pursue. At one point, he kissed me, and I felt all the feelings in that kiss that I hadn't felt with my husband in a long time. I felt euphoric and forgot about everything. There was only one thought in my head. My life would no longer be the same. I would no longer shut down in a relationship and endure all the pain and resentment. I would no longer wait for anything. I will start a new, happy life, and I don't care if I'm in a relationship or not. I will love myself, no matter what it costs me. After the club, I didn't give Timmy a chance. I didn't go to him, despite our kiss. Timmy broke my boundaries, but I didn't want to cheat on my husband so cruelly. I went to my parents' house and slept over. It had been a week since I'd been living with my parents, and I took my son to my place right away. My plans had not changed. I decided to end my old life and start from scratch. I still went to work and saw Timmy every day. He started walking me home and doing all sorts of grooming. Sometimes I'd come to work and I'd have a gorgeous bouquet of flowers on my desk with a note to the most adorable Orcan, "I walk you home." I didn't want to have a relationship with Timmy because I knew everyone would find out about it and it could somehow affect my future work in this position. But he wouldn't let up. I had lunch with him in a cafe and he opened up to me in a very different way. He was a very interesting interlocutor with whom you could discuss everything. One day, my husband came over to my parents' house to try and get me back, and he saw me walking with Timmy over to my parents' house. He was shocked, to say the least. At first, he stood there like a statue, like he couldn't believe his eyes that I had a lover so quickly. Then, he tried to deal with me like a man, but I interfered in every way possible, threatened him with the police, got in the way. He called me every possible word and left. From that moment on, I knew for sure that I was done with my husband. Timmy didn't walk me so close to home anymore, which made me laugh a lot. My husband was still trying to get me back. He would come over, tell me things would be different, beg me to come back and try to make things work, press on the fact that we had a son and that he needed a full family. I realized he was at that stage of separation where he was trying to deny the fact that I was serious and there was no going back. I didn't believe him. I was tired of waiting. I was tired of living with my husband. I was tired of living with my husband. Deep down, I wished that everything was different, that my husband had changed and we all became better, but my mind reminded me of all the facts that were not to change my mind. A month later, I filed for divorce. My husband did not believe me. He thought that I decided to scare him and teach him a lesson. Maybe he acted that way because he was always convinced that I was incapable of leaving him. He began to threaten that he would take my son away from me, that I would not get a penny after the divorce, that no one would love me with a child, etc. It was funny to watch him trying to break me. And of course, it didn't work out. Half a year later, I found a better paying job in another city and moved there with my son. I haven't seen Timmy since, but I'm very grateful that he helped me find myself and bring me back. He helped me see what I could be if I wasn't dependent on my husband, both financially and mentally. He helped me get my feminine energy and confidence back. My husband would visit my son, pay the elements, give me gifts, and try in every way to win me back. He figured it out too late. He realized he was wrong after I didn't need it anymore. I started taking a psychologist course and working on my relationship with myself, to treat myself with respect and love, and to raise my son correctly, even if his father is not in the family. It took me about 3 years to realize what it is to love and respect myself, life with my husband was just a picture of family where no one hears or understands each other. I realized that marriage is not a ring on the finger and a stamp in the passport, and the relationship between people who bring joy and peace of mind. Family is a place where it's good, sometimes difficult, but in the end, you know everything will be fine. After a while, I will remarry, and to this day, I have never regretted my action. I am happily married. I love my new job. I don't depend on anyone else. I just live and enjoy life and myself.